The premise that the money will come on its own when certain conditions are met, as advocated by Brian Tracy, resonates deeply with many who seek to prosper financially, but feel lost in a sea of complex strategies and empty promises. The difficulty often lies in the interpretation of this seemingly simple phrase. What does Brian Tracy, a renowned expert in self-improvement and personal development, really mean by this statement that sounds so liberating? The intention is not to suggest a passive flow of wealth, as if money had a will of its own to find us. On the contrary, the central message is about creating a conducive internal and external environment for prosperity, to manifest as a natural consequence of well-directed actions and a mindset aligned with abundance. The problem this approach seeks to solve is the frustration and discouragement generated by financial efforts that do not produce the expected results. Many people work hard, save diligently, and even invest, but financial progress is slow, unstable, or non-existent. This disparity between effort and financial return can lead to the belief that financial success is reserved for a lucky few or people with privileged connections. The unique angle of this script, inspired by Tracy's philosophy, lies in demystifying this idea that money will come on its own. It will come, yes, but not by chance or a vague wish. It will come as a result of a deliberate process of personal and professional development that, when executed correctly, attracts opportunities and creates value in such a way that money becomes a side effect, an inevitable reward. The journey we propose is not a shortcut to wealth, but a mapping of an evolutionary path. It begins with a deep understanding that the primary source of all wealth is the individual's ability to generate value. This involves honing skills, cultivating a growth mindset, setting clear goals, and crucially acting with discipline and consistency. The reader is invited to reflect on their own relationship with money, not just as an end in itself, but as a reflection of their impact on the world and their ability to solve problems for others. The common experience we seek to validate is that of feeling like you are doing everything right, but the financial results do not reflect this effort. What is often missing is not hard work, but the right direction and the right mindset. This script aims to deconstruct the notion that money is something to be frantically pursued, transforming it into a byproduct of a successful personal endeavor. The fundamental question that will guide our exploration is, how can we shape ourselves and our actions in a way that creates a magnetic field for prosperity? The answer lies in a series of interconnected principles that, when applied synergistically, create a virtuous cycle. It is not about accumulating sales or marketing techniques, although these can be useful tools. It is primarily about building a solid foundation of self-confidence, expertise, and purpose. Confidence in your ability to deliver value is the first step. Without it, the fear of failure paralyzes action and prevents the pursuit of opportunities. Expertise, in turn, is what enables that value to be delivered effectively. And purpose gives meaning to the effort, maintaining motivation even in the face of inevitable challenges. The journey ahead will explore how to cultivate these attributes and how they translate into tangible financial results, without, however, revealing the specific solutions prematurely. The expectation is that, by the end of this exploration, the reader will not see money as a distant objective to be relentlessly hunted, but as a natural consequence of becoming a more valuable and impactful person. The relevance to the reader's experience lies in offering a new perspective on old financial challenges, an approach that, although it may seem counterintuitive at first, promises a more sustainable and rewarding path to abundance. We will unveil the mechanisms by which the abundance mindset attracts not only money, but also the opportunities, relationships, and recognition that accompany it. The focus will be on empowering the individual to become the architect of their own prosperity, rather than a mere spectator of financial flows. The promise is of a transformation that goes beyond the bank account, impacting all areas of life. The key to having money come on its own largely lies in mastering what Brian Tracy calls high-performance discipline. This transcends mere productivity. It is a deep alignment between your daily actions and your long-term goals, with an emphasis on continuous excellence. What is distinct here is the emphasis on consistency and relentless quality, not just the quantity of work. Think of it as a craftsman who day after day hones their techniques, chooses the best materials, and pays meticulous attention to every detail. The result is not just a final product, but the very reputation of mastery that in itself attracts clients willing to pay a premium. Analogously, by invoking this discipline, every task, every interaction, every project becomes a cornerstone in building a solid foundation of perceived value. It is not about doing more, but about doing better, repeatedly and reliably. A crucial aspect to be explored is the proactive management of creative energy. Instead of waiting for inspiration to strike, high-performance discipline teaches one to cultivate a constant flow of mental and emotional energy through deliberate practices. This may involve morning rituals that prepare the mind for the day, strategic breaks to recharge the intellect and body, and the creation of a work environment that minimizes distractions and maximizes focus. Think of an elite athlete who does not wait to feel like training. They follow a rigorous schedule, knowing that consistency in preparation is what leads to peak performance in decisive moments. Similarly, the individual who adopts this discipline creates an internal reservoir of creative power and resilience, making them less susceptible to external fluctuations and more capable of generating innovative, high-value solutions. This cultivated energy manifests not only in the quality of the work, but in the ability to anticipate needs and identify opportunities where others see only obstacles, thus attracting resources and recognition. Another significant layer, distinct from previous approaches, is the application of the law of amplified reciprocity in the financial context. It is not just about doing a favor expecting an immediate return, but about consistently investing in adding value to other people's lives, disinterestedly at first, knowing that the financial universe tends to balance and over-reward those who contribute the most. Imagine an entrepreneur who, passionate about solving a specific problem, dedicates years to perfecting their solution, sharing knowledge, and building a community around their vision, even before aggressively monetizing their work. Over time, this accumulated generosity and expertise create a natural flow of clients, partners, and investors who recognize the immense value they offer. The energy they invested in serving others returns, multiplied, in the form of financial opportunities. Money, in this scenario, emerges as a recognition of the value debt that the world feels in relation to the individual's unique contribution. Consider, for example, the experience of a healthcare professional who, in addition to treating their patients competently, dedicates time to educating them about prevention, sharing valuable information on accessible platforms, and mentoring young students in the field. This attitude of going beyond what is expected, of planting seeds of knowledge and well-being, not only solidifies their reputation as an authority, but also creates a network of trust and gratitude. Their patients refer them with fervor, institutions seek them out for lectures and consultancies, and students see them as a role model, many of whom become future collaborators or clients. Money, in this case, is not the primary objective, but a logical and inevitable consequence of having become a focal point of value and trust in their professional community and for their clients. The key is the continuous and deliberate investment in being a reliable source of solutions and well-being. Delving even deeper into Brian Tracy's idea of the natural attraction of money, a vital component emerges: the strategic management of scarcity versus an abundance mindset applied to the perception of value. What often holds back financial flow is not the absence of resources, but the very way our mind interprets and reacts to perceived limitations. Instead of focusing on what is lacking, be it time, capital, or knowledge, the advanced approach invites us to realign our focus to untapped potential and creative solutions that can overcome such barriers. Instead of lamenting the lack of a resource, the individual focused on abundance asks, how can I create value despite this limitation or because of it? This transmutation of perspective transforms the obstacle into a catalyst for innovation. For example, a small entrepreneur with a limited marketing budget should not feel paralyzed by the lack of funds for traditional advertising. Instead, they can dedicate their energy to building a robust organic presence on social media, creating high-value content that attracts and engages their target audience organically, or establishing strategic partnerships with complementary businesses. Scarcity in this case forces creativity and efficiency, leading to a potentially higher return on investment, ROI, than expensive and impersonal campaigns. Furthermore, we need to examine the proactive cultivation of opportunity intelligence. This isn't about passively waiting for chances to appear, but about actively training your mind to recognize patterns, trends, and unmet needs in the marketplace that others overlook. It's akin to developing a finely tuned radar for potential ventures. This involves staying continuously informed about your industry, observing consumer behavior, and seeking out areas where dissatisfaction or inefficiency exists. The individual who cultivates this intelligence doesn't just react to opportunities, they anticipate them, positioning themselves to be the first to offer a solution. Consider a software developer who notices a recurring frustration among users of existing project management tools, a lack of intuitive collaboration features. While many might simply accept this as a limitation of current software, the individual with opportunity intelligence sees a gap, a demand waiting to be met. They then dedicate themselves to developing a superior solution, thereby attracting the very market demand that was previously latent. This foresight and dedication transform the developer from someone chasing money to someone whose valuable innovation inherently attracts financial reward. Consequently, mastery in transforming problems into value assets reveals itself as a powerful financial engine. Instead of avoiding or ignoring challenges, the individual who understands this dynamic embraces them as fertile ground for wealth creation. This means not only solving a problem for oneself, but articulating and offering that solution in a scalable way to others facing the same dilemma. Think of a consultant who discovers a particularly effective methodology for optimizing supply chains in small businesses, a sector often lacking expertise in this area. Instead of applying this methodology only to their own projects, they package it into a service, a training program, or even software, making it accessible to a wider audience. The money that comes on its own in this context is the stream of revenue generated by commercializing this solution, a direct recognition of the value they have unlocked and made available. The key here is the ability to identify a market pain point and systematically develop a response that not only alleviates that pain, but creates tangible and measurable value for those who experience it. Finally, it is essential to highlight the influence of strategic positioning as a beacon of expertise and reliability. It is not enough to possess skills. They must be communicated effectively to be recognized and valued. Brian Tracy emphasizes that money flows to where trust and competence are evident. This may involve regularly publishing articles in industry publications, actively participating in conferences as a speaker, or building a robust portfolio that demonstrates concrete results. Imagine a graphic designer who consistently shares their creative processes, insights on design trends, and successful case studies on their blog and professional networks. Over time, they establish themselves not just as a competent designer, but as an authority in their field. Companies seeking cutting-edge design will not find them by chance. They will seek them out deliberately, recognizing their expertise and the probability of success they represent. In this scenario, money becomes a reflection of the public perception of their value, attracted by the reputation they have diligently built. Furthermore, the internalization of full responsibility for financial outcomes paves the way for money to come on its own. This is not just a matter of accepting blame for failures, but of claiming the power to actively shape the financial outcome. When we see ourselves as the primary architects of our prosperity, rather than victims of economic circumstances, we disengage from reaction mode and enter creation mode. This involves cultivating an ownership mindset over every financial decision, from daily spending choices to long-term investment plans. Instead of blaming the market, the competition, or the global economy for unsatisfactory results, the individual operating from this perspective turns inward. What could I have done differently? How can I optimize my future actions based on what I've learned? This incessant self-analysis, devoid of destructive self-criticism but rich in learning, generates a virtuous cycle of continuous improvement. Consequently, future actions become more effective, and the alignment between effort and reward tightens, making financial success seem like a logical consequence rather than a stroke of luck. An additional element to consider is the deliberate construction of influence capital. This form of capital is not measured in currency but in the ability to inspire trust, generate engagement, and mobilize resources through relationships and a solid reputation. Instead of focusing exclusively on accumulating material wealth, we invest time and energy in building bridges with mentors, with peers, with potential clients, and even with the community at large. This manifests through genuine generosity, a willingness to share knowledge without immediate ulterior motives, and the consistent delivery of promises. Consider a professional who, over the years, has become known in their network for offering insightful advice and unconditional support. When a promising business opportunity arises, it is not uncommon for this network to naturally turn to them, offering collaboration, valuable referrals, or even investment. Money, in this case, flows as a recognition of the trust and interpersonal value they have cultivated, making their search for resources less of a hunt and more of a natural consequence of their network of influence. Additionally, the practice of synergistic integration of multiple value sources is a significant differentiator. Instead of relying on a single revenue stream or a limited set of skills, the individual who adopts this approach seeks to diversify their contributions and, consequently, their sources of income. This does not necessarily mean having multiple jobs, but rather identifying how different aspects of their knowledge and experience can be combined to create new avenues of prosperity. Imagine a digital marketing specialist who, in addition to their consulting services, develops an online course on SEO strategies, writes a book on content marketing, and offers workshops for small businesses. Each of these activities, though distinct, strengthens their personal brand and attracts different market segments. Money then does not come from a single source, but converges from multiple streams, created by the ability to orchestrate and monetize a diverse range of value offerings. Consequently, constant adaptive evolution based on market feedback fosters a more robust and predictable financial flow. This goes beyond simply listening to criticism. It is an active process of dissecting and incorporating signals that the economic environment sends. Instead of rigidly clinging to a model or product that no longer resonates with current needs, the agile individual is always observing changes in consumer preferences, technological innovations, and competitors' moves. This ability to pivot and refine their value offerings ensures that they remain relevant and desirable. Think of an app developer who, noticing a drop in engagement with their original platform, does not give up but invests time in user research and understanding new behaviors. Based on this feedback, they launch an improved version, incorporating features that the market now demands. Money, in this scenario, flows to the solution that has shown itself to be most adapted and attentive to evolving needs, not to the one that stood still in time. As we intertwine these distinct yet interconnected visions, we realize that the attraction of financial resources is not a fortuitous event, but rather the logical unfolding of an intricate system of personal and strategic development. The journey so far has shown us that, far from being an act of mere passive waiting, prosperity manifests as a natural echo of a deeply cultivated state of being and acting. The way we navigate apparent scarcity, the intelligence we apply to identify and capitalize on emerging opportunities, and the ability to transform challenges into sources of tangible value, all converge to shape a field conducive to financial flourishing. The way we position and communicate our expertise, the acceptance of full responsibility for our results, and the strategic investment in building a solid network of influence, all work together like the gears of a complex yet harmonious mechanism. The contemplation of this trajectory reveals that each discussed element, from the proactive management of creative energy to the constant adaptability to market signals, does not operate in isolation. On the contrary, they feed back into each other, strengthening one another in a virtuous cycle. It is as if each honed skill, each internalized shift in perspective, adds a new layer of polish to a rough gem, gradually revealing its intrinsic splendor. What once seemed like an arduous and external quest for wealth is now unveiled as an internal process of self-transformation and intentional contribution to the world. This perspective reflecting on the path taken, the emerging image is that of a carefully nurtured ecosystem where the conditions for abundance are actively created. The convergence of these practices and mindsets leads us to a point where the idea that money will come on its own acquires a deeper, more operational meaning. It is not a mystical wish, but the inevitable consequence of an individual who has intentionally become a focal point of value, trust, and solutions in their respective domain. This understanding is the prelude to the final consolidation of how this vision translates into a tangible and sustainable reality.